Welcome to our podcast, covering the art and science of business modeling. Whether you're just starting out, onboarding to a new organization, or looking to update your expertise, our podcasts are specifically designed to give you the tools and knowledge to make smarter, more confident decisions. From foundational analytical techniques to cutting-edge forecasting methodologies that deliver highly accurate predictions, we'll explore practical strategies that drive results. Join us as we break down complex concepts into actionable insights, helping you and your organization thrive in an increasingly data-driven world. Hi, my name is Jerry Skews. I have over 40 years of business strategy experience across Europe, the US, and Asia. I founded, created, and developed many businesses, mostly built around analytical systems in science, technology, and medicine, so I understand the importance of getting it right. Each of the podcasts produced focus on key success determinants that impact every business decision you are ever likely to take. While it's probably a lot to take in, it will support you throughout your entire business career. Each episode is designed to break down complex concepts into actionable insights, covering topics such as data location and extraction, statistical methods, forecasting, and business modeling. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your journey, our courses aim to equip you with the tools and knowledge to drive better decisions and achieve measurable success in your organization and your career. Join us as we explore real-world applications, share expert perspectives, and unlock the potential of analytics to transform your business strategies.
Crunching numbers in the night, finding dollars when they're tight, balancing the books just right under fluorescent light.
All right, so we're diving deep into business modeling today, and looks like someone is ready to ditch the gut feelings and really embrace those data-driven decisions.
Yeah, seems like it.
We've got a pretty interesting pile of ebooks and guides here.
Oh, yeah.
One that really caught my eye is called the Business Recipe Book.
Okay.
It seems to be packed with all sorts of algorithms and formulas.
Sounds intense.
But don't worry, we'll break it all down and make sense of it together.
I like that plan.
So what are your initial thoughts on all of this?
Well, one thing that's really fascinating to me is how data is becoming like the universal language of business.
Oh, interesting.
We're really moving away from intuition and just experience being the main drivers of, those big decisions.
So it's like data is creating this common ground for everyone.
Exactly. And that shared understanding, when it's all powered by data, that leads to better alignment across teams.
Right.
And ultimately much more robust strategies.
I see.
One framework that really leverages this is the 10 determinants of success.
Ah, yes. The 10 determinants of success.
Have you had a chance to look at that at all?
A little bit, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm curious about what makes this framework so powerful, especially in, this data-driven world we're talking about.
It's interesting, right? It gives you this comprehensive view of how a business is performing.
Okay.
It goes way beyond just the financials.
I see.
Each determinant, whether we're talking about market demand or capital availability or management effectiveness, or even the viability of the actual business model itself, each of those is made up of these sub-metrics, these measurable pieces.
Oh, okay.
And those are like the ingredients in our business recipe.
Gotcha.
And data is what lets us actually analyze each one.
So we're talking about ingredients that can be measured using all sorts of sources, right?
Exactly. Not just the company's internal data.
Right.
We can pull from market reports, industry benchmarks, customer data, financial statement. The key is that the information we're collecting, it needs to be relevant to the specific determinants we're analyzing.
Makes sense.
Should we take a closer look at a few of these?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Awesome.
I'm really intrigued by market demand. It seems so crucial for understanding how customers behave and for, predicting those future sales.
For sure. Understanding market demand, it's all about knowing your customer, their needs, and how those needs are evolving. We're talking about customer acquisition rate, retention rate, average transaction value.
All those juicy metrics.
Exactly. All those things that tell you how your product is actually performing out there in the market.
And I noticed that the Business Recipe Book, it actually gives formulas for calculating these metrics, right?
It does, and it takes it even a step further with this idea of demand forecast accuracy.
Okay.
Which is all about how close your predictions are to your actual sales.
Oh, that's interesting.
Imagine your demand forecast is consistently off, like let's say by 10%. That means you're either overstocking inventory and tying up all this capital,
Right.
or you're missing out on potential sales because you didn't have enough product.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So just improving that forecast accuracy can have a huge impact.
On your bottom line, yeah.
For sure.
Now, what about capital availability? Is that basically all about a company's financial health?
That's in a nutshell.
Okay.
Capital availability is all about a company's access to funds for investment and for growth,
Yeah.
both internally and externally.
Gotcha.
So that includes things like their working capital ratio,
Yeah.
debt to equity ratio, and just their overall access to credit.
And these are all things that we can calculate with data.
Absolutely.
So even someone who, isn't a finance whiz can use these formulas to kind of get a quick snapshot of a company's financial strength.
Exactly. Take the debt to equity ratio, for example.
Okay.
It basically tells us how much of a company's financing comes from debt versus equity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a high ratio might mean that they're taking on more financial risk.
Risky business.
Right. But a low ratio could also suggest that they're maybe not using debt financing to its full potential for growth.
Interest.
So it's all about context and interpretation.
Yeah, it's interesting how all these determinants seem to be interconnected.
Yes,
Like having strong market demand that can really help with capital availability.
for sure.
But then if you have poor management, that could negatively affect both of those things, right?
Absolutely. And that interconnectedness is what makes this framework so valuable.
Okay.
It lets us see the big picture, right? And understand how all these different aspects of the business are influencing each other.
Makes sense.
Should we move on to the next determinant?
Yeah, let's talk about management effectiveness.
All right.
It sounds pretty straightforward at first, but I'm curious about how we can actually measure something like that with data.
That's a great question.
Right. Because management effectiveness, it's kind of hard to put a number on that.
Yeah, you would think so, right? It seems really complex.
Yeah.
But there are actually some helpful metrics we can use.
Oh,
One of the key ones is return on capital employed,
okay.
which basically tells us how efficiently management is using capital to actually generate profit.
So if a company has a high return on capital employed, does that generally mean that they have good management?
It's a good indicator,
Okay.
but it's important to consider other factors too.
Like what?
Well, management effectiveness also includes things like leadership qualities, their decision-making skills, and their ability to create a positive work environment.
Right. All the soft skills.
Exactly. And that's where things like employee feedback surveys and performance reviews come in.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, the data we gather from those sources can provide a much more holistic view.
Yeah. The business recipe book, it really emphasizes the importance of gathering data from employee feedback and those performance reviews.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Right. Because even if a company has great financial numbers, if their employees are unhappy, they're going to have problems.
Exactly. Management effectiveness is all about creating a culture where employees feel valued and empowered.
And using data to understand and improve that culture.
Exactly. So, ready to move on to the heart of any successful business.
Absolutely. Let's talk about what makes a business model viable, especially in a data-driven world.
Great. So a viable business model, it's basically outlining how a company creates, delivers, and captures value.
Okay.
So we're talking about the products or services they offer,
Mm-hmm.
the target market, their revenue streams, and all the key activities involved.
So lots of moving pieces.
Right. And data allows us to assess how viable that model really is by looking at some specific parameters.
I'm all ears. What kind of parameters?
One of the key ones is the product business value proposition,
Okay.
which essentially measures how well a product or service meets customer needs and solves their pain points.
So a strong value proposition means your product is solving a real problem for your target market.
Exactly. And it also takes into account how well it aligns with the business itself and how unique the offering is.
Okay, so it needs to stand out from the competition too.
Absolutely. Another important parameter is target market specificity,
Okay.
which measures how well a business identifies and addresses its specific customer group.
So the more specific your target market is, the better you can tailor your products, messaging, and marketing to them.
Exactly. It seems like trying to be everything to everyone is a recipe for disaster.
Especially with so much data available to help us, really narrow our focus.
And then there's revenue stream variability, which looks at the stability and predictability of your revenue sources.
I see.
Are you relying on just a single product or service, or do you have multiple streams of income?
I'm guessing having multiple streams is a good thing, especially when things are unpredictable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's all about spreading the risk.
Right.
A diversified revenue model, especially one informed by data, is key to building a sustainable business.
So we've looked at a bunch of key determinants here.
Yeah, quite a few.
And it's really clear that data plays a crucial role in understanding each one.
It does.
But how do we take all this data, all this information, and actually turn it into action?
Now that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Are you ready to explore the world of multivariate predictive modeling?
I think so. That's what I'm most excited to learn about. Let's dive in.
All right, let's do it. So this multivariate predictive modeling, this is where the real power of data comes in.
Okay, I'm ready.
These models, they can actually uncover those complex relationships between all the determinants of success we've been talking about.
So instead of just looking at each one separately, we can see how they all kind of work together and influence each other.
Exactly.
That sounds super powerful.
It really is. And the insights you get from that, they can help us make way more accurate predictions about, the future of the business.
So it's like having a crystal ball, but one that actually uses real data and analysis.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
It's cool.
Can you give me like a concrete example of how we might use this in a real business situation?
Sure. So let's say we're trying to understand why customers are leaving our business.
Okay, customer churn.
Right. We might have data on their purchase history, their demographics, how they interact with our website, customer service interactions, all that stuff.
Lots of data points.
Yeah, and a basic analysis might show us that customers who contact customer service a lot, they're more likely to churn.
Right, makes sense.
But a multivariate model, that could uncover something much deeper.
Like what?
Well, it might reveal that, let's say, customers over 65 who live in rural areas and who've purchased a specific product, they're actually the ones at the highest risk of churning.
Interesting.
And that's regardless of how much they interact with customer service.
So the model is seeing connections that we might totally miss just by looking at the data on a surface level.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing.
So with that knowledge, we could develop specific strategies to keep those customers happy.
Like what kinds of strategies?
Well, maybe we offer them a special discount, or provide them with some tailored onboarding materials, or proactively reach out with helpful resources.
I like it. So you're not just reacting to churn after it's already happened.
Right. We can anticipate it and actually try to prevent it.
And this is just one example, right?
Right.
We can use these models to predict all kinds of things like sales forecasts, market trends, even employee performance and fraud risk.
It's mind-blowing when you think about the possibilities.
It is.
These models sound super complex, though.
Yeah.
Are they really only for those giant companies with, those big data science teams?
Not necessarily anymore.
Really?
There's all this software out there now that makes even sophisticated modeling accessible to even small businesses.
Okay, that's good to know.
But the key is that you have to be collecting the right data in the first place.
Right, garbage in, garbage out, right.
Exactly. You can't build a house without bricks.
And you can't build a predictive model without good data.
Exactly. Now, speaking of gathering data, I noticed one of our sources mentioned this thing called the order of the squirrel.
The order of the squirrel? What is that? Sounds kind of mysterious.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun way to talk about how important it is to understand data sensitivity and specificity.
Okay, I'll admit I'm not familiar with those terms in this context.
Okay, no problem. Think of it this way.
Okay.
Sensitivity. It's about making sure you're capturing all the data signals that are actually important to your business goals.
So, not missing any crucial insights.
Right. You don't want to leave any stone unturned, right?
So sensitivity is about, casting a wide net.
Exactly. It's like having this highly sensitive radar that can pick up on even the faintest blips out there.
Gotcha.
But then we've got specificity, which is all about filtering out the data that's irrelevant or misleading.
So we don't want to get distracted by all the noise, right?
Exactly. You got to filter out the junk.
So sensitivity is about capturing everything important. And specificity is about, getting rid of the stuff that doesn't matter.
You got it.
It sounds like finding that balance between the two must be really important.
Oh, it's crucial.
Okay.
If you're too sensitive, you might end up seeing patterns where there aren't any.
Like false positive.
Exactly. But if you're too specific, you might actually miss some critical insights.
Okay, I see. So how do we find that balance?
Well, it starts with, really clearly defining your business goals and the questions you're trying to answer.
All right.
And then from there, you identify the data sources that are most likely to give you relevant and reliable information.
And there's a ton of different ways to collect data. Right?
Oh, absolutely. From good old-fashioned surveys to more modern stuff like web scraping and sensor data.
And we can't forget about all the stuff online, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Don't forget about analyzing social media posts and online reviews. That can give you a lot of insight into customer sentiment and those emerging trends. And technology is making it easier than ever to collect and analyze data from all these different sources.
Right. It seems like every day there's something new.
We've got these APIs that let us connect with other platforms and software applications and platforms that can automate a lot of the cleaning and prepping of data.
So even if you're not like a tech whiz, you can still use these tools to make sense of your data.
Exactly. It's becoming way more accessible to everyone.
That's great.
But sometimes, even with all the fancy tools out there, the simplest ones are still the most effective.
Are you talking about Excel?
You know it.
Still going strong.
It really is. Excel might seem kind of old school in the world of big data, but it's still incredibly powerful for filtering and analyzing data, especially for those smaller businesses.
I can definitely see that.
It's like, you know those squirrels we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Always gathering nuts, storing them for winter. They're essentially filtering and organizing their data, making sure they have what they need to survive.
So we should all be more like squirrels when it comes to data, always gathering, filtering, and organizing.
Exactly. The more organized your data is, the better equipped you are to make those good decisions.
That's a great way to think about it.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from that whole concept of data as this universal language to the power of multivariate predictive modeling.
This has been incredible.
Glad you're enjoying it.
But I have to ask, what's the ultimate goal of all of this? Why should we really care about being data-driven?
It really comes down to making better decisions.
Okay.
Decisions that can boost your business performance and ultimately create more value for everyone involved, your customers, your employees, your stakeholders.
And so it's not just about like crunching numbers just because.
No, not at all.
It's about using those insights, that knowledge, to make a real difference.
Exactly.
I like that.
Data can help us find those growth opportunities,
Yeah.
Streamline operations, cut costs, improve customer satisfaction.
Lots of possibilities.
Oh, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
And you've really emphasized that this isn't just for those big corporations or, those data scientists.
Right.
Anyone can use these concepts to improve their business.
Absolutely, no matter how big or small your business is.
It's empowering.
It is. With data becoming more accessible and, all the tools to analyze it, there's really no excuse not to be data-driven.
So for someone who's like ready to take that leap, leverage data to really level up their business, where do they even start?
Well, the first step is always going to be collecting data.
Okay, makes sense.
If you're not already doing that, start tracking things like website traffic, sales figures, customer feedback.
Just get it all down.
Anything that gives you insights into how your business is performing,
And then what? Do we just dump it all into a spreadsheet and like hope for the best?
Not quite.
Okay.
Got to clean it up, organize it, make sure it's accurate and consistent.
Got to.
And then you can start exploring it, Looking for those patterns and trends.
Okay.
Tools like Excel, those are a great starting point.
And once we have a handle on that, then we can start thinking about those predictive models we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to figure this all out on your own.
Right.
One of the sources mentioned this training course, and it seems like it covers everything from data acquisition to building those, killer strategies.
So a good resource for anyone who wants to improve their data skills.
Yeah, definitely check that out.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this kind of thought-provoking question.
Okay, what is it?
We've talked a lot about how data can measure a business's success in terms of, financial performance. But can we use it to measure success beyond just profits and losses?
Interesting question.
Right. Like, could we use data to measure the impact on employees or communities or even the environment?
That's a great point, and it's something we definitely need to be thinking about more.
Yeah.
As data becomes, even more important in the world, we have to consider those ethical implications.
Right.
And how we can use it for good.
Right.
Can we use it to create more sustainable business practices?
Yeah.
Can we foster more inclusive workplaces? Can we make a real positive impact on the world around us?
Those are great questions.
Those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves.
It's pretty exciting to think about those possibilities.
Yes, it is.
I think, by really embracing this data-driven mindset, we can not only improve our businesses, but also contribute to a better future for everyone.
I totally agree.
Well, this has been an amazing exploration of business modeling in this data-driven world.
It has.
And I hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel inspired to really use data to transform your business.
Absolutely. Remember, data is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
It's up to us to use it wisely.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for having me.
This has been a fascinating deep dive,
It really has.
and we encourage you to go out there and conquer the world of data, one insight at a time.
Crunching numbers in the night, finding dollars when they're tight, balancing the books just right under fluorescent light, adding figures line by line, making sure the sums align, ledger pages neatly signed, keeping finances in design.